Can you see the presentation now?
Not yet.
Yes, ma'am.
Not yet. No, we cannot see your presentation.
I've shared my screen.
Maybe it will take some time. Yeah, now
Can you
I
see now?
can see. Yes, now I
Yeah,
can see.
fine.
It's gone again.
Shall I start now?
No, but now we cannot see again.
Acha, what's the issue? Let me once again go back.
Yeah.
Okay, it's disconnecting.
Maybe if you close your video, then it will be better. If
Ah, right,
your
right.
link is,
I'll do that.
yeah,
Yes. Fine. It's
yes, now
a
we
lot of
can see.
bandwidth. Yeah,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
now I've connected to hotspot. That's why it may be
Ah,
having an issue.
no, but now we
So you
can see
can
your
see,
video.
right?
Yes.
Okay. So shall I start?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Okay. I'm extremely sorry for the delay. Let's begin. The topic of my presentation is MEMS development, selection, fabrication process, and design methods. Okay. So outline will be I'll give an overview about the MEMS. I hope some of the speakers might already talk about the MEMS technology, and I think the FDP is related to microfluidics and lab on chip. So some of the aspects about the MEMS and lab on chip must have already been covered. During the presentation, I will also highlight the different MEMS fabrication technology and how you choose the specific fabrication methods for your device development. And at the last, I'll discuss about the different design methodologies, like what are the design constraints, different design approaches, and I'll explain it with some case studies. So, highlighting the FDP is related to lab on chip. So, the one of the latest news I could come across about the MEMS and lab on chip development is about the MEMS used for COVID testing. Now, everyone from this COVID pandemic. So I'm giving you lecture through this online method. Otherwise, we could have directly interacted in person. But because of this pandemic, we are facing all these issues. So for this pandemic, MEMS again has come into picture. Like the conventional testing, coronavirus testing takes a lot of time. So the lab on chip method can drastically reduce this time delay. So these are some of the examples. So this particular example I came across through research is about the PCR test kit, which has been approved by US FDA and it's been developed by Cepheid. So they have been using these devices for a couple of months since now. So this test kit uses a lab-on-a-chip device. The device has a polymerase chain reaction PCR analysis method. So you, hello, uh, you have any queries? You can enter anytime. Hello.
No,
Yes.
nobody should interrupt at in between. They will ask questions at the end, sir. Otherwise, it becomes chaotic.
No issue, no issue, no issue. So this is one of the just example, just to highlight how MEMS come to picture. Okay. So I think might have come across like PCR and lab on chip kind of device. This is the first kind of MEMS silicon PCR chip developed by USA, and it has been given for CEFIT for further development. This is the first PCR kit, and this is the recent PCR kit that has been released for testing novel coronavirus. Coming taking cue from this example, I just want to highlight like how MEMS is useful in our life. So MEMS not just lab on chip kind of devices. MEMS is present all around our uh, almost all applications. Like many, I can say is omnipresent microsystem now. So you have MEMS in car airbag system, DLP projectors, inkjet printers, cell phone. You have bunch of MEMS sensors and so many other applications you can think about. So the classical example of MEMS is a smartphone story is from Samsung. So it is I think quite an old model S4. So still it has lot of MEMS sensors like for sensing mobile phone rotations. They have MEMS gyroscope, accelerometers, magnetic sensors. So many other sensors are now part of our handheld device. Even a lot of wearable devices like smartwatches and everything, they are using extensively using MEMS sensors. So why do we really need MEMS? So MEMS basically to use to improve the quality of life by making luxury things affordable. For example, airbags before 1990s was a luxurious option. It was available to luxurious cars only. Uh, the bottleneck for this because of the costly crash sensors. They used to have a very expensive accelerometers. Now, because of MEMS technology, the cost of critical sensors have drastically uh, available at very affordable costs. And another advantage of MEMS is like making advantage of small scale science. For example, the the FDP talks about the lab on chip. So here, so you can think about faster chemical reaction. So large surface area to volume ratio can be used for expedited reaction. The example I talked about the PCR chip. So even you can integrate multiple function in the one device. Then you have uh, this portable or mobile and easy to replace devices which can be developed using this technology. Coming back to MEMS history, the MEMS development started immediately after the development of semiconductor devices. So the development of pressure sensor dates back to 1960s, then oscillators, inkjet printers, and so many things. So one of the study published by Yole Development in 2014, they come across this comparison where it has been presented that mentioned that the average R&D time for MEMS device development could be as long as 10 years. Product evaluation again goes for 8 years. And from R&D to commercialization, some of the MEMS devices have already taken 25 years of time in development. But now, because of so many tools available to us, we can uh, expedite this development process. So that is what I'm going to talk about. So first thought about MEMS development was floated by the theoretical physicist Feynman. So he, while giving a lecture, uh, he said that there's a plenty of room at bottom, and uh, plenty of room means there's a possibility of manipulation of the material at a very small scale. So, for example, he thought about his future vision of making miniaturized computers, robots, and kind of things. So he floated two challenges for making micro machines. So one challenge was to construct tiny motor that is 1/64 size inch of cube, And another was possibility of scaling down letters by writing the information from book page on a surface 25,000 times in the linear scale. So both the challenges were won in different time. But specifically, this is how the development of micro scale devices kickstarted. Then another important paper which has been cited and referred by most of the people who are in the development of MEMS devices, that is silicon as a mechanical material. So it was published in 1982. Uh, this is a highly referenced paper in the field of MEMS. Why silicon as a MEMS material or mechanical material? First thing, silicon is abundant and it has a many useful compound. Uh, it has a very good mechanical and thermal properties. It is as close to mechanical property as high as like steel. Uh, Young's modulus of 1 GPa, steel has 210 GPa. Still, it has a very low density. It has a very good conductivity, coefficient of thermal expansion. And the most important things about the silicon, its electrical properties can be fine-tuned based on your need. And silicon is already compatible with conventional IC or CMOS fabrication technologies. Application processes like photolithography, deposition, etching are actually already developed, established. So you don't have to invest heavily on the completely new process or completely new fabrication technology. You can take some of the process steps which are already established in commercial fabs. Uh, Certain modification are definitely required because as it is, you cannot use the same fab which is been fine tuned for making CMOS devices, and you cannot make the same. You cannot make MEMS devices. So have to be some process alterations. This MEMS technology. The conventional VLSI CMOS technology is basically focused on layered or 2D structures. The exception is a latest FinFET technology, which uses a 3D geometry for making very minute transistors. But in MEMS, we may out technology. In CMOS, we have a standard building block. CMOS transistors is basically for making any IC. We don't have any building block element. Our designer has a freedom to do whatever he wants. Then MEMS technology, the devices we use for sensing external parameters are hello. Am I audible now?
Yes, yes. Yes,
Oh,
sir.
actually, sorry, sir. Yeah, I think the. Can you see the
Yes, sir.
hello?
It is visible. It is visible,
It is
sir.
visible, right? It is visible.
Yes, yes.
sorry for interruption. I had to take one urgent call. So now coming back to this slide. So I was comparing the IC versus MEMS technology. So there's a definite some differences are there. For example, the MEMS technology, we depend on the interface with the external environment. But in CMOS or ICs, we are not dependent on the external environment. There are completely independent operations. And coming back to packaging, so for ICS CMOS technology, packaging technology is already standardized. So we have DIP, SDIP, or so many other kind of packages developed. But depending on our application, for MEMS devices, we need to develop our own packages. So that is the main difference between the IC or and MEMS technology. While developing your MEMS devices, we have a choice of different fabrication processes. Unlike IC technology, we have standardized CMOS process. Here, there is a bunch of different processes that has been developed by people. So I'll try to highlight these processes in this next. So there are different fabrication technologies. If we broadly divide them, there are two technologies available for fabrication of any MEMS devices. One is subtractive technology, one is additive technology. Subtractive means you have to remove the material to form a structure from your base material. So there are different technologies for in the subtractive method, that is bulk micromachining, deep reactive ion etching, and laser micromachining. When you come to additive manufacturing, that means your substrate is not disturbed, but you build up your structures by depositing your structural material or any other electrical material. So those technologies are called surface micromachining, LIGA, UV LIGA, electrochemical fabrication, and THELMA. I will give you brief about these different technologies with some basic examples. Uh, so coming to bulk micromachine is a subtractive process. So we need to remove the material from base substrate to form a structure. Could be a movable structure like spring, uh, cantilever beam, or structures. So there are two methods. One is wet etching and another one is dry etching. In wet etching process, we remove the substrate material by chemical processes, like we use chemicals like hydrofluoric acid, potassium hydroxide, tetramethyl amino hydroxide, etc. And in dry etching, we use substrate material by impact of ions or reactive gases. So this is one basic example of bulk micromachining. See, if I have to fabricate a pressure sensor using this technology, how do I process? So I take a silicon wafer, then oxide is deposited at both the end. We do photolithography to make a pattern from where I have to remove the substrate and where I have to keep the substrate. And by doing photolithography, I'll expose certain area, and this certain area, exposed area, is faced for chemical processing. Like we use chemical etching or dry or wet etching, whichever is required, and etch out the material. In this case, after etching the material, a thin membrane will remain by doing the control etching. And this thin membrane will act as a diaphragm for pressure sensor. And when we deposit transistor elements like piezo resistors over the top of the diaphragm, it will work as a pressure transducer. So this is the very general application of making pressure sensors using the bulk micromachining process. To micromachining, unlike bulk micromachining, in bulk micromachining we remove the material, but in surface we add the material. So microstructural material is added to the top of the substrate. The substrate acts as a base. So what are the base? One is like you can use the chemical vapor deposition method, or another you can use physical vapor deposition. What is the difference between these two methods? In CVD, we use materials get deposited by chemical reactions from the wafer phase. So there are different equipments available: CVD system, LPCVD system, ECVD system. Vapor material in vapor stage are physically introduced to the substrate. So there are two popular methods for doing PVD, that is E-beam evaporation and sputtering. So this is another basic example accelerometer fabrication. Fabrication of accelerometer using surface micromachining method. So here we start again with silicon wafer as our base material, and then we add an oxide layer. This oxide layer will act as a sacrificial layer for us. Then we make anchor holes by using photolithography process. Then after making anchor holes, we deposit our structural layer. In this case, polysilicon will be used as a structural material, and this is deposited using chemical vapor deposition process. After doing photolithography, we pattern it in a desired shape. Here, the shape is like a moving mass, fixed fingers, and movable fingers, and spring structure. So once this mass spring structure is exposed to acceleration force, then this mass moves in lateral direction because of this spring which is attached to the anchor, and we measure the change in capacitance between the fixed fingers and moving fingers, and this change in capacitance directly related to change in acceleration. So this structure, like for example, after doing photolithography, this sacrificial layer is removed, and this is how we form a suspended moving structure. Packaging, this device can be used for your end application. Another classical example of machine process is a digital micromirror device, which is very common device used for DLP projectors, which has been developed by Texas. So they have very complex. They have developed very complex fabrication process. So here you can see the mirrors, which are mirrors, which are a size of only 16 micron by 16 micron, and it has a switching time of less than 20 microsecond. And this flip motion of this mirror gives you that generates this image on your projector. Another uncommon, these are two important processes: bulk micro machining and surface micro machining. These are very common development, but people have developed some other processes which are unique to their applications. I can the high aspect ratio processes. Okay, so what is aspect ratio? The aspect ratio is basically thickness of the structure divided by minimum lateral feature size. This typically applies to beam-like structures. So, in other words, it can be height to width of the beam. So, these are the two examples I can show you about the for explaining the aspect ratio. This is a surface micromachining MEMS accelerometer developed by our lab in collaboration with Sitar Bangalore. Here, movable finger width of this movable finger is just 1.2 micron, but height is 2 micron. So if you take this ratio, it becomes 1.6:1. But so it doesn't have that qualities of high aspect ratio structure. The problem here is that because if you see the overlapping area of this is a capacity based accelerometer. So you know capacitance is equal to epsilon A by D. So it is directly proportional to overlapping area. So since this thickness of this structure is just 2 microns, I have a small overlapping area. Difference value for this kind of is very less. So increase thickness aspect ratio and the maximum overlapping area over here, so that I can increase the capacitance, base capacitance value, and thus increase the change in capacitance. For example, the accelerometers or gyros which we are using in our smartphones, mostly these are the microelectronics, and they use the layer. Here the structure width is still 2 micron, but height is 20 micron. Here the of signal conditioning of this. So why is there any issue? Uh, Hello, I have there is some disturbance. Hello, are you able to hear me?
Sir.
Are you able to
Yes,
hear
sir.
me? Okay, okay. If
Hello, sir. Please unmute your mic. Sir, it is not audible. Please unmute your mic. There is no audio, sir.
you got muted.
Okay. Now it is
Fine.
audible, sir.
But could you get the earlier slides? Stopped. Hello.
Hello?
Shall I go back to previous slide?
No, sir.
Okay, fine. So I am talking about the deep reactive ion etching process. In this process, we use silicon micropunching process. So here we use two different type of gases. One is sulfur hexafluoride. This is used for removing the material for etching, for dry etching process, and C4F8 octafluoro cyclobutane gas for making a passivation layer. So first the etching is done, dry etching is done, and then passivation layer is deposited. And some portion of this passivation layer is removed to expose the silicon substrate once again for next dry etching process step. And this cyclic process is switched to passivation and etching cycle uh, to achieve desired depth of etching. So with this kind of process, we can achieve aspect ratio of up to 50:1 with the sidewall angle of nearly 90°, that is perpendicular walls. And with this process, people have achieved etch rates up to 16 microns per minute. So almost through is achieved through this process. This is the case study of the DRI process. This is the accelerometer which has been fabricated by Sitar, Bangalore. Sitar is a DRDO laboratory, autonomous DRDO laboratory situated at Bangalore, which is involved in development of semiconductor device and MEMS devices. Single axis capacitive accelerometer. This has been used for vibration sensing. This is a proof mass. These are the beams, springs, leaf springs attached to the anchor, and moving fingers are attached to the proof mass, and fixed fingers are attached to the base. So we have used silicon on insulator wafer for this fabrication. So it has got a device layer of 18 microns and handle layer of 300 microns. So this MEMS structure has been fabricated using this deep reactive ion etching process. Another classical example of deep reactive ion etching process is the MIT microturbine engine. This was used for power generation. This process used to make engine parts on the 6 separate wafers. And such kind of complex geometries have been fabricated using the deep reactive ion etching process. One more case study of DRI is the some uncommon application. This is not a semiconductor application. This is from Sigatech SA. This is from Switzerland. They use DRI process to make micro parts, especially for making precision analog watch application. So these micro parts are coated with oxide and diamond film, and this kind of very complex parts have been fabricated using on silicon wafer using DRI process. So coming across to another process, DRI has been a surface evolved from this bulk micromachining process. There is another high aspect ratio process evolved from the surface micromachining that is called THELMA. This is a proprietary process developed by ST Microelectronics. THELMA stands for thick epitaxial layer for microgyroscope and accelerometer application. So what they do, they take a silicon wafer with a thermally grown oxide as passivation layer, and thin polysilicon layer is then deposited, patterned and etched, and they deposit 1.6 micron thick oxide layer. This is the sacrificial layer. This is again patterned and etched, and 15 to 20 microns thick epitaxial polysilicon layer is deposited. This 20 micron thick polysilicon, which is epitaxially grown, acts as a structural material, and this then pads and deposited for connections, electrical connections, and then material is patterned, etched, and you get this suspended mask ring structure. So this is a case study of THELMA. This is a motion sensing in the smartphones. This is a typical 3-axis gyroscope used in any smartphone. So this is a structure, this is a design. So this is a tuning fork gyroscope design. So vibration induced by is by electrostatic actuator using this movable and fixed mass, and then is accessed by changing measuring the change in capacitance. So higher thickness of proof mass is already increases the sensitivity of the device, and also reduces the required proof mass size. So the overall size of this device, die size is just 4 mm by 4 mm. So what we talked about is all silicon based processes. What if I want to use in some other material for making microstructures? So there are people have developed some unique processes. One most popular process is LIGA. LIGA is actually an abbreviation of 3 German words, that is lithography, galvanoform, and AFFERM. That means photolithography process, electroplating, and molding process. This is a combination of these three different processes. The main advantage of Liga process, it's again its capability to make a very high aspect ratio structures. People have reported aspect ratio of 100:1. Some of them are reported structures built in the order of 1,000 micron thick on the with just few microns uh, feature size. But the problem with this process, it is dependent on the synchrotron radiation. Synchrotron X-ray radiation. X-ray beam is used for doing lithography, and they use a very special metal mask. They don't use a conventional chrome photomask. And these structures can be either made up of either by metal or polymers. And these are the basic process steps of the Liga process. So you take a substrate, then cast PMMA. PMMA is a photosensitive polymer. It is casted on this metal base, and then special photomasks are used, and this substrate is exposed to X-ray radiation. These X-ray radiation are available only with synchrotron kind of facility. And after developing, you get some mold, and this mold can be filled using electroplating process. And after removal of photoresist, this photoresist can be used as a mold and a sacrificial layer. After removing this mold, you get the final metal part. And this metal part can be separated from the substrate to get a separate standalone component, just like a micro gear. So this is a classical case study of using Liga process for making very complex micro parts. This Liga process has been used for making safety and arming device for 25 object individual combat weapon, CW XM25. It has been developed by Nexter Munitions USA in a collaboration with DARPA. So this is a very, very miniaturized safety and arming device. I believe you are aware of safety and arming mechanism of fuse. So they have used hello, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So they
Yes,
use
sir.
this as well as acceleration forces to drive this safety and arming mechanism. This complex miniaturized mechanism has been fabricated using X-ray Liga technology. But the problem with Liga technology is their dependency on the synchrotron X-ray radiation, which may not be available to your common user. And that's the reason why the process becomes very, very expensive and inaccessible to many people. So a UV Liga process have been developed as an alternative for this Liga process. So here in this process, we make use of conventional photolithography process instead of X-ray radiation. So these are the process steps involved in the UV Liga process. So in this process, this is a single stage UV Liga fabrication process. What we do, we take an substrate. In this case, we have used one as a substrate, and we deposit a seed layer because we need to do electro deposition. So typically, titanium gold is deposited as a seed layer. We form an SU8. This is a specific special photoresist developed by IBM. Uh, this photoresist is negative tone photoresist, which is very effective for this kind of process. So we deposit this SU8 photoresist, then you do UV photolithography, and mold is generated after developing. And in this mold, we deposit any metal, electroplatable metal. Here in this case, we have used nickel for depositing in this mold. And after removal this mold, we get a standalone component. And this standalone component is used as a micro mechanism. We have also developed multi-stage UV Liga process. This is a two-stage UV liga process we developed for fabrication of MEMS metal MEMS sensors. So here what we are doing, we take a silicon wafer, deposit a seed layer, and this seed layer is patterned to make contact pads. Again, we use SU8 for making anchor mold. This is the first stage of lithography. Anchor is deposited using nickel electrodeposition. Then we repeat the process for making a movable structure layer. And this movable structure is then patterned. Again, this has been deposited with nickel electroplating. And once we remove this photoresist, we get suspended moving structure. And this has been and this structure is made up of nickel instead of silicon. So this is a case study of UV liga process. This is a sensor we developed. These are actually at very initial stage. And now we are largely modified the process. So this is a floating G switch and impact switch for artillery fuse application. This has been designed and fabricated at our lab. We have our in-house MEMS fabrication facility, and we have a dedicated in-house developed multi-stage UV liga process. So this has been fabricated using two-stage UV liga process. And at the end of this fabrication process, we get a complex MEMS structures. This is the proof mass. These are springs, lip springs attached to this anchor. And this is works in out of plane direction. After exposing to acceleration or spin force, this mass moves downwards and it connects this two pads at the bottom. Case study of UV liga is from a watch manufacturer. It is from Mimotech. They have pioneered and commercialized UV liga process and targeted at watch industry in Switzerland. So the watch component fabricated using UV liga process. This process has been further exploited by another developer, that is Microfabrica USA. They have made 3D printing process using this liga process. They call it as EFAB process, electrochemical fabrication process. This is a microscale additive manufacturing technology. This is a multi-layer process, and they claim it has been using a single machine. And what they do, they deposit 10 to 30 micron layer of metal and with a 25 micron feature size. So what they do, they have a substrate. They first deposit a sacrificial material, in this case the copper, and that has been patterned. Then structural material is deposited, electro-deposited. They call it the blanket deposition. In this case, structural material is a nickel or nickel alloy, and this will be planarized. And this process is repeated multiple times to form this 3D structure. Once you get rid of this sacrificial material, you get a very complex final shape, and this can be used as your final device. And this kind of device doesn't need any assembly. This is an example of EFAB. So the application is biocompatible micro tools for minimally invasive medical procedures. This is a tissue removal tool for heart surgeries. This tool contains and 6-sharp counter rotating blade. We spin at 1,000 RPM. And this another device is mm and 0.7 mm. So this complex device has been fabricated using EFAB process, which is nothing but an upgraded version of your UV liga, that kind of process. Another case study of EFAB is the from defense application. It is a miniaturized MEMS-based SAM for Airbus grenade. This is from Common Fusing Precision Fusing System. They use this of MEMS-based SAM. This is a conventional army mechanism. This complex mechanism is fabricated without any external assembly. That's the beauty of this process. So if you compare different MEMS fabrication technology, so you can make out there are certain advantages, certain disadvantages with this process. So I was just in previous slides I talk about our facility. We have in-house MEMS fabrication facility. We call it the Microsystems Lab. We have 1,000 square feet clean room facility having a class 1,000 and class 10,000. This facility has this specifically fine-tuned for development of UV ligand based process, and we have almost all ingredients available with us for developing the metal-based MEMS process and devices. So this is all about the fabrication choice we have for developing of any MEMS devices. So if you have any questions, you can ask, or we can proceed further for our next session for this design methods. Shall I move ahead? Hello? Hello?
Yes,
Am I
sir,
audible?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Now we after after deliberating on these various fabrication processes, I'll also like to highlight the design methods, because MEMS is not just fabrication. You need to design your own device, right? So how to design a MEMS device? For designing MEMS device, you need to have certain design inputs. Then you need to follow certain design process, and you need to do the fabrication process. So what are the design inputs we need to consider for designing any MEMS device? So is the application and desired product specification. Then for developing MEMS fabrication MEMS device, you need to identify the fabrication facility during the design stage itself. Okay, and you need to identify what kind of fabrication technology you'll be using. Process will govern these your device design. And at most important thing is you have to understand the design rules of the fab. So you have to understand the fabrication constraints of the your fabrication partner. Taking design, you have to follow a certain design process. So first thing, you have to conceptualize your design, come across some preliminary design of your device. Then select a design approach. There are two different approaches. Either you follow top-down approach or bottom-up approach. And you can use tools. Design specific design tools available in the market. You have to use proper design tools to reduce, finalize your design, then put for your fabrication facility. The inputs can be in form of mass data. Will be given to fabrication facility. The facility can do your prototype fabrication. You have to do characterization and testing. After doing characterization, you can evaluate your device, whether your device meets your design application and specification. If not, you have to repeat the design and fabrication process to achieve the design specification. And only after that, you can move it to production. So design inputs. For example, these are first thing is the application and product specification. Talk about automotive application, and you have to design airbags. Then you have application like ABS sensor. You have application like suspension sensor. Then you want to develop pressure sensor. Pressure be used for tire pressure, fuel tank, or rail pressure monitoring, or manifold pressure monitoring. So every specification will differ. For industrial, you can use accelerometer for shock and vibration testing. For consumer, you have accelerometers in mobile and tablets and printers. So all specification, although you are developing application, but specification could differ based on your end application. And the choice of fabrication will also govern your design. For example, which fabrication route you will be following. If you are using bulk micro machining, the will be single crystal silicon, silicon carbide wafer, SOI wafer, quartz or glass wafer. And method you can follow like wet etching, dry etching, DRI process. If you are going for surface micro process, you have material options like polysilicon, silicon on insulator, epitaxial silicon, and polymer process. And the method can be CMOS like process like surface micromachining, MUMS. And then if you don't want to use silicon as your material for your device, then you can use metal or polymer. Where these kind of processes may not be useful, you need to go for unique processes like UV Liga. You for making these structures, you either use X-ray or UV photolithography, electrodeposition, molding process. And some specific processes like stereolithography, electrochemical fabrication, E-beam, viridium. This can also be explored for making your microstructures. When you're going ahead for fabrication, certain fabrication constraints you need to consider. First thing, limitation of fab facility. For example, the fab you are approaching, what kind of maximum wafer size they are using, whether they work with 4-inch, whether they work with 6-inch, or it's a R&D lab which just work on 2-inch wafers. That can govern your design. Then the best possible print resolution they can offer, that will govern your device size, device features. Then their processing capabilities. Then limitation of fabrication processes like if you're using wet etching, there's a selectivity. Okay, whether you want a perfectly perpendicular vertical sidewall or you can use the conventional bulk processing, bulk micro machining. Then if you are using dry etching, the depth limitations are there. If you are using process, mold thickness issues are there, high aspect ratio, maximum aspect ratio that can be achieved. Those limitations you need to consider. Then if your device is an active device, you need to consider signal conditioning and interface issues, issues related with electrical parameter, EMI, EMC, whether the device what you're developing, the signal conditioning device is available off the shelf or not. For example, if you're developing capacitance-based accelerometer, and if you're using conventional surface micromachining technology, then the range of capacity you'll be measuring will be in the level of femtofarad. So conventional signal conditioning devices are definitely not going to work. So that aspect you need to consider right at the beginning. Then if certain devices will need the development of ASIC together along with the development of MEMS devices. For example, if you're developing bolometer, it depends on readout integrated circuit, which is directly deposited on the substrate. So you need an ASIC itself. Then packaging. Any MEMS devices need special packaging requirement. If you are using surface pressure sensor, it needs an opening in your package. So you need to identify packaging technology, availability of packages, or do we need to develop your own packages? So that aspect need to be considered during the design study itself. Coming to preliminary design stage, you have to come to drawing board based on your application, specification, and fabrication approach. So designer can come up with a preliminary design. This is example of, say, if you want to develop an bulk micro machine accelerometer. So what accelerometer? Accelerometer consists of mass spring damper system. Okay. So mass spring damper system, you can use the single beam method. This is a cantilever beam with fixed at one end and moving mass at the end of the beam. Then you can a single beam method with a fixed, which is fixed at both ends. This is a cantilever beam, and then all your on your specifications. So the stiffness of the spring increases, you increase the natural frequency. If you are looking for a very low natural frequency, you cannot go for this kind of design. You have to stick to this kind of very flexible structures. I talked about the two different design approaches. One is a top-down approach and another is a bottom-up approach. In top-down approach, which schematic based approach. So people who have worked in EDA, so like Cadence kind of devices, semiconductor device design, they may be aware of this kind of approach, schematic based approach. So in schematic based approach, you use a very specific software. In this case, you can use Coventerware software. So you have to get input from fab. Then you get fab process and material database from fab and library if available. So this component library will have uh, uh, libraries like beam, springs, plates, etc. And based on your device, you evolve your process flow and define model using these available components. And then after doing this, you generate a netlist. After generating netlist, you do parametric analysis and do design optimization. So which kind of beam width, spring length, and whatever you can find in this simplistic. Then after doing this, generate your mask and generate a 3D model and verify the design. And you can further do FE analysis and do the detailed design. This particular approach is very useful for very complicated designs like making gyroscopes. Okay. This schematic based approach gives you very fast design optimization. This offers very flexibility in a design. However, you are actually dependent on this standard component library. You don't have option of defining the shape of the beam as per your uh, desires. The next approach is a bottom-up approach. This is a very involved approach. This is a finite element. So here also you get an input from fab. You take process and you need to know the material properties. Have your preliminary design, and based on a preliminary design, you develop a process flow and do a mass layout. After doing this, you generate a 3D model, and this 3D model will be used for your finite element method analysis, FE analysis. So first you have to do meshing, and you can do multiphysics analysis, evaluate results, whether this results meets your goals that you have to find out. If not, you have to go back to your drawing board. This particular approach is useful for simple designs like pressure sensors. This is a FE-based approach. It demands extensive computational capabilities, and this computation time computations are very time consuming, and this may take even days for doing very simple multiphysics analysis.
You are not audible, sir.
you to contact. If you are developing accelerometer, then it has to be exposed to acceleration and those kind of processes. Then after that, you enter into design and process optimization. To characterization testing, you can find out the flaws in your design. Then you can, if there are any problems with your design, repeat the design fabrication process till the desired specs are achieved. So I'll give you two examples of one is the top-down approach and the bottom approach. This involves the fabrication of the same device. The case study of design and design of surface micromachine capacitive accelerometer. The design input for this was the application and product specification. Application was vibration structural health monitoring, and the specification was we're supposed to design single axis accelerometer, capacitive type, range plus or minus 10 G, bandwidth 4 kHz, resolution 10 G. What we target is 50 millivolt per G. For this device. Design input was fabrication. So, identify our fabrication partner. The fabrication process is not available with us. So, from the partner, in this case, STARS was our fabrication partner. At Bangalore. Rules. So, they are facility and they have 6-inch lines. Consider MEMS and ASIC is not possible. So they develop MEMS. MEMS and ASIC is developed on separate chips. So and the process has a certain limitations. So polysilicon cannot be deposited beyond 2 microns. Silicon nitride cannot be deposited beyond 0.25 microns. SiO2, the sacrificial layer in this case, cannot be deposited beyond 2 microns. And metal limited to 1 micron. And they can go up to minimum 1 micron as a minimum feature size. So I cannot target any device which is having dimensions less than 1 micron. The design inputs we started designing, we used differential capacitance type sensor for better linearity. So we have a central proof mass with folded springs at both ends and for stability. And our target was to keep the base capacitance as high as possible. And for designing this, we use CommandWare as a design tool. So the best, after interacting with Sitar, the fabrication process has been identified. This surface micromachining process use 6-inch silicon wafer. Then nitride is deposited as our insulation layer, and 2 polysilicon is deposited. Doped polysilicon. This is our contact pads and layer. Then this forms our sacrificial layer. And this anchor holes are opened by using dry icing method, RI, and then polysilicon is deposited on this. This is around 2 micron thick. This polysilicon is again patterned using RI process, and wet etching is performed for removing the oxide, and that is our sacrificial layer. After depositing and this device is ready for testing. Process have design specific process, and this process based on this process flow here. So here we designer and analyzer module here, and the process input was as a process file has been used. So this is a customized process design. We draw mask using a layout editor or AutoCAD. This is imported in a designer module. And this, after this, we generate a of this device, and then meshing analysis carry out design changes. This is final layout. This is a device. So this is a proof mask and movable and spring fixed fingers. FE analysis and with this tool we can directly measure each, and if it is not meeting your requirement, for example, you need to find out what is the maximum displacement for given acceleration. If the spring is very stiff, you need to just kind of changes to carry out, but every you draw the mask module. The another app I explained you about is the top-down approach. This is a schematic base. Here the sections and making changes are very easy. So here we use Architect Designer Analyzer module. Architect a very specialized module developed CoventryWare for this schematic based approach. Here process input is a process file, and then standard components are architect library itself. So we don't draw mass or spring. We simply pick up the module and place it in the drawing. Here it's possible to do parametric study. After doing this parametric study, you can generate a mask, generate 3D model, and then the optimized model, optimized design can be processed further for doing final FE analysis instead of doing a lot of iteration in 3D modeling itself. So this is how the design looks in architect window. So these are the different models. Look like a actual device. So you need to just pick up this rigid plates, serpentine spring, fingers and moving fingers. There's a standard component library they have developed, and you also you can also connect the electrical circuit in the schematic itself and evaluate your device. After doing parametric study, we could find out like after changing the beam mass, size, and everything, whether like what effect is there on your device. So here we are looking for this optimal natural frequency. So after doing parametric study, we could come across variants of this device by changing beam length, width, and cap. All this design, device design meets our specification. So we fabricated all these 8 designs on 2 different dies. Okay, these are 4 different accelerometers just for a testing and evaluation purpose. Based on this design, we generated data given. This is a device after fabrication. These 4 dots are actually 4 different accelerometers in 4 different configurations. This is the final device design in you can seen under the SEM microscope. So, so this is how actually I've tried to give you detail about the choice of fabrication process flows, fabrication process technology, and design which you have when you are going to design a MEMS device for your application. So I have right now. So I'll summarize this. So MEMS basically is evolved from IC fabrication technology. MEMS actually development takes a lot of time due to non-standard processes and development approach. Uh, we have choice of various fabrication processes and many materials. And these MEMS specific processes are completely different from conventional IC fabrication processes. MEMS device design involves understanding of MEMS fabrication process and limitations of MEMS fabrication process. Application and fab design rules are key input for MEMS device design, and we have choice of different design approaches. Like you can use top-down schematic based approach or bottom-up FE based approach for MEMS design. Thank you. Your feel you can please ask your queries if you have. I'm audible. Hello. Am I audible?
Audible.
Yeah. This is all from me. You are free to ask me questions if you have.
Okay, there is one question. What is procedure to develop any MEMS device in your organization? Oh boy.
Hello.
Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah. There is this question. What is the procedure to develop any MEMS device in your organization?
You want to collaborate with their developing MEMS device?
Someone had asked this question.
No, actually, I didn't get. This procedure means you want to tie up with R&D engineers for developing MEMS
No,
device,
I
or
think probably they want to know what is the methodology. When you decide that you want to design and fabricate some MEMS system, what exact, how do you go about it step by step? That is my understanding of the question. Maybe.
that I already explained in my
Acha, you
presentation. The
have
case
explained.
studies that those case studies are from our development itself.
Okay. Another
Okay,
question,
because
any
we,
simulation
yeah.
software for MEMS is available?
We had CoventorWare, but now that has been outdated. So we didn't upgrade it. But this COMSOL multiphysics,
COMSOL,
this
yeah.
can also be used for designing MEMS device. But
Yes.
what we are doing for our current development,
Mhm.
we actually adopt bottom-up approach. So we
Okay.
direct design our devices
Uh-huh.
using our some different design tools, not specific to MEMS. Our conventional mechanical design suits like Abacus and ANSYS.
Okay.
So we use those tools. We are not
Mm-hmm.
using conventional tools because we are heavily dependent on FE based approach.
Okay.
That we find
Okay.
is more reliable,
Okay.
but that takes a lot of time.
Yeah. Yeah. We also use COMSOL to a certain extent. Of course, not we don't design any big elaborate MEMS like you do,
Okay.
but COMSOL is the one that I know that is
Yeah,
used.
COMSOL has a very good multiphysics capabilities.
Yeah. Yeah.
There is no match for it.
Correct.
We also use
Correct.
it for our
So
multiphysics environment.
yeah. So I think someone has asked car airbag system. I don't know what is the meaning of that.
Our
Maybe
airbag
they want.
systems, because this is now, it's mandatory to have an airbag systems in most of the
Yes.
cars,
Yes.
right? So
Yeah.
basically, what it has, they want to know about it.
I don't know. Only this MEMS design. How car airbag system? No.
It's just shock accelerometer
Does it use top down or bottom up device?
approach. That
Ah,
depends on the designer. See, they might have used a bottom-up approach
yes.
because accelerometer design is not that complicated.
No, it is
If
just
they
an
are using,
accelerometer.
it uses accelerometer. as a shock sensor.
And yeah, and I think those designs are pretty standardized now because
Yeah, these are very
they are,
standardized. Very
yeah,
standardized. Yes.
very,
The
very
process is
standardized.
standardized. The design is standardized.
Yes, yes. So that is a set names now. No new development,
Yeah.
maybe
Right, right.
not much is going on.
The
So
only
I
thing,
think
the
that,
new development I've come across is about the Thelma process,
haha,
which has been developed by ST Microelectronics.
okay,
Earlier, they used to build 20 micron thick structures. Now,
okay,
I think they have developed Thelma 60 process.
okay,
With this, we are going to develop deposit 60 micron thick structures.
okay, okay.
There's a Thelma 60. I don't know whether it was under development. They might have already developed it.
Might have
Most of
been. This is a very
devices
fast.
are there in mobile. Yeah, they use this process.
Yes, this is a very fastly developing field actually.
Right.
Yeah. So I think that we are done with the questions, and I'm
Any
sure that
question from your end, ma'am?
I will ask you later on.
Okay.
I will write to you. Actually, I wanted to invite you for our MTech
Okay.
students also because they learn fabrication technology for MEMS. They have a course, fabrication and packaging technology for MEMS. So I anyway want to invite you. Let all this get over, and then maybe we will have a better interaction. Yeah, I can see that. So I think that Pednekar sir has lost his connection. Hello? Hello?
Okay, ma'am. So
Yeah.
I, yeah, ma'am. Yeah, ma'am.
So I was saying that after this thing gets over, maybe we can have some better chance at collaborating and you helping us maybe here at the EIT regarding students getting the first hand knowledge from you. So I think that we will now stop, and I'm sure that just like me, all of you have enjoyed the first-hand understanding about MEMS design and fabrication first-hand from a person who actually does it as a part of his work, and that gives it a different dimension. All of us are teachers, so we study and we teach, but hearing from somebody who is actually doing it from the beginning, from the design to fabrication, that is a totally different experience. And let us thank Mr. Pednekar for that. And I'm now concluding this session. Thank you, Pednekar sir. And I'm concluding this session for today. And let us meet tomorrow 9:30. Thank you so much. Freezer झालाय.